Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the best movies I saw in the summer of 2014. Although the box office was a lot lower than expected, the quality I thought was a lot higher than I expected, and there were a lot better movies than I really expect from summer movies, especially from the Hollywood films. I don't expect such high quality in summer blockbusters that I got from this summer. I feel like last summer was actually a lot worse than this summer. There are often times where in June I felt like I actually hadn't put out a negative review in a while. I felt like people would think I lost my edge or something. Not that I feel like I need to put out negative reviews, but usually there's a bad movie to review, so it works out. But like this summer, there were like huge periods where like I liked everything. Like I felt really stupid about it, but there were a lot of good movies, and I generally love that about the summer. It was really fun going to the movies and experiencing so many different and good movies, especially big commercial movies that filmmakers really cared about and had great stories that were fun. I think this was a great summer for the movies. There were so many good movies this summer. I'm only going to pick 4 as the best, but I wanted to do a quick runners-up category and then talk about why I didn't pick them as the best, because I'm sure you'll be wondering that. The only one that I didn't put on the best that I kind of feel like I need to watch again is The Rover, so I hope I rewatch that before I do my year-end list. Anyway, now here is the runners-up: A Most Wanted Man, How to Train Your Dragon 2, 22 Jump Street, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, X-Men Days of Future Past, Boyhood, Life Itself, Edge of Tomorrow. I'm sure you're probably wondering about a couple of those. With Boyhood, the accomplishment of it as a film that like no one's really done that kind of film, I like that aspect of it. I don't know if I like the actual stories within it as much, and there's a lot of things I really like about it, but I didn't feel like it was as strong as the 4 films I picked. Edge of Tomorrow, I liked the section where he keeps repeating things, but I didn't really like the third act. That's a film I think I need to rewatch a couple times, but I'm still acknowledging it. And Life Itself got pretty close. It's just, it is so much more of a conventional documentary that's not as much of something that I like personally. It didn't like change my mind about those kind of documentaries, although I did think it was appropriate for the man that they were covering. Now on to the cream of the crop, what I felt were the very best films. So here are the 4. The first film is Guardians of the Galaxy. I think the only thing this really shares with the other Marvel films is its use of humor. But how quickly it moves, how funny it is, how much fun it is. When Marvel Studios works, they're really kind of like super Hollywood, big blockbuster, audience-friendly films. And Guardians of the Galaxy definitely falls in that tradition. This is probably the most fun, big blockbuster I've seen all summer and probably in a while, and that he can do so many weird, quirky, odd things but still make an audience-friendly film. There's not many directors who can do that anymore. There's certain fun of seeing a film with an audience who, when I sat down, I didn't even really like the people I was sitting next to, but after a while I had such a good time with this movie. I felt like, you know, you're one with the audience and you're having a great time. It didn't even bother me. That's what I want from escapism and Hollywood and Marvel Studios, is to have a great time, see a great movie, get emotionally involved with these well-defined characters. And with Marvel Studios doing things like that, that will keep me interested and keep me going back. And the next film is my only comedy on here, really. Probably my favorite comedy of the year, or at least so far, and that is Obvious Child. The romantic comedy is a genre that's kind of been in a bit of a rut for a decade or so. It certainly isn't as popular as it used to be. And I think one of the cliches of romantic comedy is they're very Hollywood. And it's not a genre that's really evolved culturally. It's kind of stuck in almost this 50s mentality. Women do this, men do that, and so forth. And I think Obvious Child is a evolution of a genre, because Obvious Child is about a woman played by Jenny Slate, who is a Brooklyn comedian who has a one-night stand with a guy and then gets pregnant and decides she's going to have an abortion on Valentine's Day, no less. But between the time she has scheduled the abortion and when it is going to take place, she falls more and more in love with the guy. It still takes the beats of a romantic comedy while not feeling very fake and Hollywood, but also feeling very digestible and very easy to go down and kind of the things you'd expect for a romantic comedy. It feels very light, but it's not really light about its subject matter. It's not very light about what it's actually trying to do. The women in this film aren't just like perfectly super feminine and they fall into all these cliches and they're this kind of a woman, and the guys aren't, you know, smoking cigars and playing cards and talking about football. They feel more like real characters. When I was a kid and I watched a Hollywood romantic comedy, I'd be like, oh, this must be what like a date's like when you're older. But then when I watched Obvious Child, I was like, oh, this is what a date was like for me when I was younger and single, and I could relate more to Obvious Child than I can now when I watch those same romantic comedies when I was a kid, and I go, oh, this must be like what it's like as an adult, and now I'm like, oh, come on, this is ridiculous. This film, I think, has more of a soul to it and has more of a realism to it, having them fall in love while this thing that she's waiting to tell him about kind of works like a romantic comedy kind of setup, but this is like something that someone in real life would have a problem explaining because it's a really heavy thing. So it works a lot better, and it's something you can relate to and something you've heard a friend talk about. When you look at a film like this, it kind of shows where the romantic comedy genre could go. It feels so much like a rom-com, has the soul of a rom-com, but is far more progressive and far more real and far more like the kind of rom-com that we should have at this point, rather than the rom-coms we did have. This next film I think a lot of people forgot about, but that's kind of unfortunate, but hopefully some of you will give it a second look, and that is Night Moves. This is the latest film from Kelly Reichardt, and it's kind of more genre than you'd really expect from her. But I think the interesting thing about it is, as much as it is like a film noir kind of genre with this eco-terrorism slant on it, it still very much feels like one of her movies. It's like if someone combined genre with her style. I was thinking about this actually during the film, and I read an interview with Kelly Reichardt and she kind of confirmed it. This film kind of moves like Rafifi. Rafifi is very genre, and that's kind of like a film noir, robbery kind of film. The majority of this film is set around them getting the materials to bomb the dam. But then there's also a section of the film where they have to deal with the consequences of that and what to do with the consequences. And that's when I think film noir really got its darker side. That's when things could go wrong for everybody. And Night Moves doesn't escape from that. And it does kind of use that noir genre to kind of show how inexperienced these characters are. The problem with thrillers most of the time is they always have to feel very Hollywood. They always have to be a conventional kind of film nowadays. I don't see very many thrillers that have fun with the genre and do a different twist on it like Night Moves does. So this is the best film I saw in the summer of 2014. It is a film that I haven't stopped thinking about in certain regards. It's a film I'm definitely going to watch again soon because I really loved it, and that is Coherence. This is a sturdier sci-fi genre pick than we're really used to anymore, and it feels almost like a really good 50s science fiction film or a Twilight Zone episode. Coherence is the kind of good, sturdy genre film I think that's the science fiction genre was really based on and really started out before it became the stuff of major blockbuster motion pictures. I think with all its complications and everything, you could go on various theories about it, but at the same time it's very clear. You could really tell what's going on, and it can be clear while still having all those theories and being a very well-built, both concept-wise and with its characters. And it almost feels like both are just as important. A casual dinner party among a lot of friends. Then they're talking about a comet that's going overhead, and then after the comet starts going overhead, all the power goes out. They want to go to this other house in the neighborhood whose lights are on. Two of the men leave and come back with a box, and they start to realize that when the comet is overhead, they're able to go into different realities of the same situation. Basically, they compare it to the film Sliding Doors, but it's a whole theory where if you make one decision, automatically there is a different reality where you've made another decision. And then those realities keep multiplying. They start to encounter themselves from these different realities and try to make sure they're in the right reality and to make sure they're safe before the comet goes over again and they can't go into these other realities. The director, James Burkett, wanted to make a small film, and he wanted to make it in his house, mostly in his living room, but he didn't want to spend a ton of money. So what he did was he came up with a concept that would make the film bigger than just his living room and his house. And apparently most of the film is improvised, and it doesn't have an improvisational feel to it. I actually didn't know that before I saw the film, and I thought it was very tightly kind of scripted, the way they edit it and shoot it and everything. This is a science fiction film with no special effects budget. Like, the comet's pretty simply done. It never feels cheap because of the low budgetness of it. It feels interesting, and it feels like I want to see more. I would recommend it to fans of science fiction and horror, like hardcore fans, but I'd also recommend it to people who aren't necessarily in that. It's something that like makes you sit up in your seat and pay attention. So those were the best movies I saw in the summer of 2014. The fall has more of the films usually that are on top 10 lists and more Oscar bait and things like that. I hope it is as fruitful. I actually thought the first 4 months of the year and that group that I picked on my list of the best films of the first 4 months of 2014 were stronger than the summer, and the summer was strong, so I'm hoping the fall and winter lives up to the film year that we have had so far and continues the streak, because I think it's been fairly good. We'll see what happens. This channel will continue. I think it's been a good summer for this channel, and I hope it's been a good summer for you, the viewer of this channel, as well. Comment below if you have seen any of the films I talked about in the best movies I saw in the summer of 2014, and then put in the comments what you thought your best movies of the summer of 2014 were. Thank you very much for watching, and subscribe if you would like to.